You're welcome to Ayola TV. Viewers, you're on to the program, Your View. And this is the program where we bring leaders, technocrats, politicians, for you to listen to them and see where we're going to, both at the local level, depending on their nationality, and also we try to integrate with the international community. Today with me is a great man of African descent. He's a humanitarian, he's a human rights activist, and he's also an environmentalist who is also an activist in that direction. He's a man who has actually fought for the emancipation of his people. He's a great man. He's a graduate of University of Benin in Edo State, Nigeria, of African descent. And he is a recognized person at the United Nations. He's also well known at European Parliament because he has been there fighting for his people's right, social justice. He's a man who believes in the right policy taking place. He is no other person than, he is also, before I go ahead, to introduce him, he is also a chief, an African chief of Isoko Kingdom in Delta State, Nigeria. Please join me in welcoming Chief Comrade Sonny Ofehe to this program.
Thank you for having me.
You're highly welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're highly welcome.
Thank you.
Please do take a minute to add up to the introduction of who you are.
Yeah, well, I am Chief Comrade Sonny Ofehe. Just like you said, human and environmental rights activist. I've been in civil society for about 30 years now, and I currently am running as a governorship candidate for Delta State, Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Comrade, sometimes I'll have to call you comrade or chief, so just
no problem.
You want to like become the governor of Delta State in Nigeria, and Delta State is the Niger Delta. I know Niger Delta has surfaced in the international community based on economic and social policy crisis, and on so many occasions there have been demands of social justice. There have been environmental issues, and I've read so many of your articles and I've watched your presentations at United Nations, and there's one recently on the minority. So can you just tell me why the transition from activism to politics?
Well, I have been in the forefront of trying to show the world, tell the world how much of marginalization, how much of social and environmental injustice the people of the Niger Delta are facing in the face of economic wealth. You know, Nigeria is the 8th largest exporter of crude oil in the world, and the Niger Delta region happens to be the area that provides this crude oil for the country. And then Delta State is the 2nd largest producer of crude oil in Nigeria. And also Delta State has the largest gas reserve in the country. So Delta State plays a very significant role in Nigerian economic drive in terms of revenue generation. Now, in the civilized world, you can be an activist, you can be on the part of pressure group, and you can use that to at least influence policies at the government level. But in Nigeria, and indeed other part of Africa, it is always very difficult for you to use pressure group to shape policy. So at the time I started thinking that it will be better for people like us who've been very, very outspoken on the injustice, and who've been trying to work with international institutions, government agencies to try and see how they can put pressure on government, on corporations, to change their way of approach in a way that at least they can maintain international standards in countries like Nigeria, particularly in the oil and gas sector, so that the people can benefit from the resources that is being exploited in their area. But since we're not getting that sort of result, I felt the need to bring in my experience and also bring in my passion, and also bring in the knowledge that I've acquired over the years into governance. So it is not as if I call myself. It is actually people who have been following me, particularly my people who have been following me, and they feel at this stage it is time for me to enter into politics. And I gave it a serious thought, and then at the end I decided that yes, I think it would be the best thing to do, because of course I live in Rotterdam, and having lived in Rotterdam for almost 22 years now, I've seen that there's so much similarity between Rotterdam and Delta States, and then also the problems we have in...
Yeah, we're actually coming to that. Thank you for the response to the question. It's very intelligent, and but I have a concern, and I'm sure most of our viewers out there do have that concern too. You've been in this part of the world, Europe, where you've been opportunity to travel around the whole globe. I think I want to believe you've been to virtually all the continents of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you stay in a place where everything works on ideology. The ideology is progressive, and that's what translates to the realities we see in development. If you look at America, for example, they came together on ideology, and that has moved them. Whether it is the Democrats or the Republicans, what is the concern of the American is, the American or the Americans, is the development of their country. And when it boils down, it comes down to the state level, same thing. If the Californian person is talking about economic development, social justice, human rights, that the central government should appreciate that fact. Now, coming to the Netherlands, where you have spent half of the years you have spent on art in, it's also almost the same level. And going to Africa, especially Nigeria, it's more like a political structural thing, not an ideology progressive situation. How do you intend to integrate your knowledge into that system for the benefit of your state?
Well, if I understand you very well, you're talking about political parties being organized on the basis of ideas and yeah, ideology, just like you said.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I have experienced that in this part of the world, but unfortunately our democracy is still at a nascent state where we have not been able to take it to that level where people can begin to join political parties on the basis of what you think and how you think. Now, and that is because we are still underdeveloping, and the majority of the voting population are below poverty level, and the literacy level is also very high. So that is why majorly political manifestos that you see in Nigerian politics is mainly based on what kind of service the party can provide. And you know, you can, so the ideology on the basis of orientation do not come in that level. However, I think that by the time we are able to either build or strengthen our institution, and where our institutions can start to function very well, I think we can then take our democracy to the next level, where political parties will have to be divided on the basis of ideas. But right now, there is need for us to build our institution. And so what I am taking back is I have carefully studied political parties in the Netherlands, and I've also followed political parties at the presidential system of government, with America as an example. And what we need to bring in, what I need to bring in now, is how have this democracy been able to strengthen their institutions. And that I've seen in this part of the world, that it's not rocket science. It's born out of passion, dedication to serve the people, and to ensure that the dividend of democracy is enjoyed by everyone who has the right to vote. So So, and that is why where the people are not happy with any government, it is easy for them to translate that dissatisfaction into elections in a way that they vote for another political party. And that is where pressure group also play a significant role. So where policies that are promised are not adhered to or are not implemented, you know, then there is this pressure group that start to sensitize the people on the need for them not to be, you know, not to deal with that situation where politicians make promises and they don't fulfill it. Now coming to Nigeria, in the course of my engagement with people, consultations with people from all categories of life, I have discovered one thing, which is a positive sign for our democracy, that everyone understands the need for us to advance our democracy in a way that it can be compared to the Western countries. However, unfortunately, the people who can advance our democracy by becoming the politicians do not have the means, do not have the monetary means, because in Africa it's very expensive to run political parties, because you almost single-handedly have to fund your campaign yourself. And then also, where they have the means, they may not have the power to be able to position themselves in a way that some kind of godfathers will endorse them as their political candidate. But thanks in the 21st century right now, with the innovation of social media, people are beginning to get aware. People are beginning, the world is becoming more of a global village, where I remember in Ughelli, in a city called Ughelli in Delta State, somebody was reminding me of Sebastian, the current president of Austria, you know, as the youngest man. So for me, it was surprising to see a young man in Ughelli telling me that, no, it's time for the youth to take over. I mean, look at Austria. Austria just voted a 30-something years old young man to become their president. So you see, people are beginning to have this awareness. But unfortunately, we still have the challenge of many of these youths still remaining unemployed, that in some cases you want to organize a meeting. Some of them who genuinely want to attend do not have the means to attend because they don't have the financial means. So you need to provide transport for them. You need to provide some form of logistics for them so that they can be able to take care of themselves. So having been on both sides of the eye, I see myself as having the knowledge and experience, you know, to be able to say, you know, these are the ways we need to put our institutions. These are the way we need to deal with our institutions in a way that we can strengthen them, and then when they start to function effectively well, it does not matter who gets there, because the system is already there. So, but then people can start to look at the behavior of who becomes their leader, the intellectual capacity of who becomes their leader. And until then, we will be facing the problems that we're facing. So it is time for people who see themselves as having the capacity to come out. And that is where I have now come out to offer myself. And the journey that I've achieved, the success story that I've achieved so far is surprising to a lot of people, because they believe that Nigeria democracy do not have a place for people like us who are not flaunting wealth as the means for which we can get power.
That's a great response from you. Viewers, I do hope you are enjoying the program, and we would like you to respond. You can throw questions to our guest, who is Chief Comrade Ofehe. You are free. You also can follow us on all our social handles. It ends with ayola.com. They are on the screen for you to see. Please let us know what your view is. So back to you, Comrade. You talked about unemployment. This is one area that has been actually of great concern to almost everyone when they talk about Nigeria. We have all the resources, yet the unemployment rate is on the high side. Now, Before I go deeply into that, I would like to ask you a question. What's the population of Delta State as a state in Niger Delta?
The last population census put us at about 5 million population.
5 million.
Yeah.
And then what's the livelihood of the people, of the people that make up that number?
Well, ordinarily, our major occupation in Delta State should have been farming and fishing.
Okay.
Because we have 40% of land,
okay,
and 60% sea. So basically,
so what you're saying now is that the basic livelihood is farming and fishing.
That is supposed to be.
Yeah, but I know you're going to talk about the environmental hazards that has prevented that to happen. Now, given the consideration to the dynamics, how do you intend, when you do become the governor, how do you intend to improve the livelihood of these people?
I think one thing that is non-existent at the moment is the middle class. And you will agree with me that in any economy that the middle class does not exist, the economy cannot stand. And how do you build the middle class? You need to build the middle class in a way that, the average citizen can at least have a job.
Okay.
And when they have a job, they can at least use the job to afford a house, afford a car, and take care of their family. And then when you have that, you can then be assured that, money will be in circulation because salaries will be paid. People will be purchasing, buying things. And then how do you create job? You create job by ensuring that you have companies, you have investors coming into your state to invest in all segments of your economy. Like for instance, Delta State is very rich in oil and gas, very rich in marine, very rich in construction. We're the gateway to South, South, and Southeast, whether by air, by land, by sea. You cannot access the South, South, and the Southeast without going through Delta State. Delta State has currently under functioning 4 major seaports, which if any good government can be serious and want to really affect the lives of the people through the oil and gas sector, you can revamp these seaports, and we have 2 major export terminals. We have the Fukedos and the Escravos export terminals, and then we have, there are many direct and indirect jobs you can create from this sector. You can engage the small, medium, and large-scale entrepreneurs. You can empower them so that they can start to build up their own businesses from all of these sectors. And then also you have the farming, like we say, all summed up in agriculture. We have creeks, we have swamps, we have spring water, so you can develop all sort of businesses out of these. Like look at Vietnam, Laos. They export shrimps, they export seafoods. So they are one of the biggest exporters of seafoods to North America today. I believe Delta State can even do much more than that, because in some communities, you step your foot in the ground, you remove it, you start seeing periwinkles scattering all over the places. But because the people do not have mechanized way of harvesting these periwinkles in commercial quantity, they are just only picking the ones they can pick and sell along the market side. The function of a government is to empower them, open opportunities for them to engage in a larger, and do not forget that we have a tropical rainforests in terms of, we have rains, we have palm oil, we have rubber. Malaysia is a big economy today because of rubber. So we can also touch into all of these areas, and we can look into how we can secure our states in a way that it can be comfortable for investors to come in and spread their companies, and then look at some of the dead companies that were existing at the time when I was a young man. We have the Asaba Textile Mill, we have Delta Glass Ughelli, we have the larger steel complex, although some of these are federal projects. which we can, we can harmonize, economic policies in a way that we can encourage the federal to wake them up.
Comrade, I would have to stop you briefly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have to go for a commercial break right now. Hello, viewers. The program is Your View. Like I said at the beginning, it's a program that welcomes to the studio leaders, technocrats, politicians from different parts of the world to tell us what they think about policies and their place and how they intend to develop their place and integrate this local development into the international context. So please do follow us, subscribe to our YouTube, Ayola TV, and also follow us on our social media, which is all out there on the screen for you to see. We'll be going on commercial break now, and when we come back, we will finish up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep watching Ayola TV. 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 Keep watching Ayola TV.
Hello, viewers. You're welcome back to the program, Your View, and with me is Chief Comrade Sonny Ofehe from Delta State, a governorship aspirant for the state, one of the thriving, how do I say it? Your state is a major oil producing state, and it's supposed to be the bedrock of economy. Unfortunately, it is not so. It's not what it's meant to be. Viewers, do not forget to leave your comments on our social media handles, and also you can call us on the program. The phone number is on the screen. So back to our comrade, who is our guest today. 2 years ago, was it 3 years ago, you and I happened to be at a conference, and you were invited as a special speaker. You did relate your experience that day, how you were arrested when you took some people from the Netherlands to Nigeria to see what the people, the mass, yes,
Kidnapped.
yes, you were kidnapped.
Mm.
Thank you for the correction. That story touched a whole lot of people who were at the conference. How can you just in 1 minute tell us what that experience is like?
Well, we were actually in a very remote community in the Niger Delta. And the reason why we had to visit the community was to see how the people of those communities, the cluster communities that have been put together, and then they had a cottage hospital that was built under the General Memorandum of Understanding between Chevron, the community people, and an NGO. So, but it was funded by Chevron. And we wanted to see what kind of benefits was this cottage hospital providing for these people, knowing fully well that such hospitals in the past, there are no proper machineries put in place to run them over time. They don't sustain themselves. So, and then why this cluster communities was very interesting to us was because it was a community that was hosting Nigerian two biggest deep sea drilling platforms, the Bonga oil field and the EA oil field, combined capacity of about 500,000 barrels of crude oil per day, and yet the people do not have lights, they do not have good water to drink, their waters are polluted, and so it is only vulnerable people that are still in those communities, because when you're a young man, there's no means of livelihood. You have to migrate yourself to the urban areas. So we came there, we had a good interaction with the people, and then on our way coming out there, we were attacked and we were kidnapped. So, but yeah, it was an unfortunate situation because I was with a few Dutch people who were humanitarian in their consciousness, and were very much interested in wanting to see what kind of role they will play in helping our people. But then the sad reality was that we were kidnapped in that trip. It brought a lot of emotional and psychological torture, and two of those victims went through a whole lot of period of post-traumatic stress disorder. And but on top of that, the whole kidnap situation lasted for about 5 to 6 days, and I was happy that everybody came back to the Netherlands alive. So it also tells a lot of stories, because these were young people who were unemployed. I mean, living in an area where you have abundance of crude oil, and yet you still live under the poverty line. So it was a very bad situation. Okay.
Why it's necessary to have your experience is because the word, most times through the media, get the positive side. Most of the oil companies, major oil producing companies in Nigeria, tell the world this is what they are doing for the states, the state they are getting the oil from, the crude oil from. And most people believe the story. Not until people like you, people like the late Ken Saro-Wiwa, and who I know is from one of your write-ups.
Mm-hmm.
You will acknowledge him to be your mentor. Mm-hmm. And not until people like him and you show the world the other parts. In fact, there was one video I saw on social media where you let the world see what kind of water people drink, water mixed with crude oil. And findings have actually shown that many people out there are dying because of cancer, and this cancer is from the water they drink. Now, this is very important, because now you're transitioning from that activist that you are into a politician, and you are going to be when elected the governor of the state, you are not going to lead in isolation. Some of these people that kidnapped you are still there. Not individuals, but institutions were used to kidnap you. And you have to deal with these institutions. And you're coming into that place to bring about social change that will bring about development, improvement, and progress in the livelihood of people. You talked about bringing the airport and different things. I've read your articles. How do you intend to do all this when you are going to be dealing with people that have different ideology? How do you intend to do it?
Well, we must first of all understand the agreement between the multinational oil companies and the Nigerian government. Ordinarily, in a civilized society, anything that has to do with social projects like provision of roads, schools, are meant to be the prerogative of the government. So oil companies are not meant to, statutorily do that. But however, under corporate social responsibility, you owe it a duty to the community that you do your business, to also ensure that the people who live in those communities live a good life, at least. So where they're not enjoying the benefits of your operation, you should do something to take them along. And so even in Eindhoven, for instance, when you go to Eindhoven, you feel the presence of Philips. You see state-of-the-art lighting facilities, street lights. You go to the city center, you feel the presence of a big multinational company that is doing business around the world, also showing some kind of corporate social responsibility to the area where they are domiciled. Now, the oil companies make their contributions, like they pay taxes, they pay royalties, they're even taking about 15% of this total, profits of oil that is produced. So the larger part of that amount goes to the Nigerian states. Then on top of that, there are intervention agencies such as the NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, in which the oil companies are mandated to give 2% of their profits to this organization. So you will expect that, to some extent, such amount of money should be sufficient to provide the basic needs of people who live around those communities. And then on the part of, blaming the oil companies, where you go to oil-bearing communities, in most cases, you find out that multinational oil companies have been operating in those communities since I know a few communities that the oil companies have been operating there since 1968, 1972. Until now, those communities still don't have lights, no good roads. And then where the oil company keep their workers, you see a very nice tarred road leading to that location. You see state-of-the-art buildings in those locations. You see the compound fence. You see, satellite dishes for them to be able to communicate. And these are small cluster communities where, you expect that same wonderful lifestyle that they've created for their workers can also be extended to the whole of this community. Now, having said that, you begin to see the disconnect between governance and the spending of the monies that are coming from the oil and gas extractions. Like, there is always, apart from the federal allocation account amount that is coming to every state on a monthly basis, you have the 13% derivation that is coming from the federal to oil producing states. And these are no small monies. These are also huge amount of money. So one thing that has kept communities where they are today, that they are struggling to even get out of poverty line, it's not just because the oil companies are not doing what they're supposed to do alone. No, it is also because the government in most of these states, like in my state, are corrupt. They don't have sense of leadership. They don't know how to grow what they have in order to be able to expand and create better opportunities for people who are coming from oil producing area. My state has an oil intervention agency called the SOPADEC. The SOPADEC is meant to even get 50% of the 13% derivation that is coming from the state. So, but that is coming to the states. But these agencies are almost non-existent in terms of, carrying out the facility that they're supposed to
Just a minute. I think we have a caller on the line.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. Hello, you are on to Ayola TV and the program is Your View. Oh, I think we lost that call. You can continue.
So stepping into government, it's for me to correct that corruption aspect, or that leadership role that is needed to manage the resources very well in a way that people can benefit. Yeah. The people can benefit from the oil producing area. So it is not taking me out of the activism. No, the activism is only helping me to understand the dynamics of this operation and also to understand.
Okay, I think we have a caller on the line. Just hold on. Hello. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah, you are on to Ayola TV and the program is Your View.
Good afternoon. Okay, I have a question for Comrade.
Okay.
I have a question for Comrade.
Okay, go ahead.
With the current situation that is happening in Nigeria right now, where most of the people from APC are moving to PDP, I want to know, does this affect your political aspiration in Delta State anyway? Because I know the people in the political party in Delta State that is ruling right now is PDP, if I'm really correct about
Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
So my question is, and you are
APC.
an aspirant from APC.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is, does this in any way affect, or will you limit the fact that you are coming from an APC, and most APC governorship or aspirants are always are already moving to PDP? Does this in any way affect your political aspirations?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. It's a very good one. Actually, in politics, when it's getting close to elections, you get used to the fact that people who see that their position leading up to the election, it's no longer favorable under the political platform in which they are, will definitely move. Before now, APC used to control, have 26 states in which we have APC governors, and 3 have defected to the PDP, and 23 still left. And just yesterday, the 23 paid the president a solidarity visit, assuring him that no more governor will decamp from the APC. So as it stands now, APC is still having majority of the Nigerian state in terms of governorship position. And also at the Senate, we saw a few senators who also defected, but then APC still controls the House. They still have majority in the House. Now to my state is PDP controlled state. There has been no defection from the APC camp to the PDP camp, and we are still very much strong. We have a bit of a challenge at my state right now because we have 2 factions, but we're happy that the national chairman, the newly elected national chairman, Comrade Adams Oshomole, have been able to resolve that. So we're uniting our house in a way that we can be able to come out as a very strong opposition party to face the PDP in the general elections. And personally, the defections that you've heard about is in no way affecting my political aspiration. It has nothing to do with me, and it will not affect me in moving forward. My momentum is picking up at the right pace, and I am very confident that my message is resonating in the rightful quarters, and at the appropriate time I will be in a better position to pick the APC governorship ticket for the general elections. Thank you, and God bless you.
Do we still have you online? Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
he has answered your questions. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, comrade, that caller actually asked one of the questions I've actually prepared for you. I wanted to ask you before the call came in, why did you choose to run on the platform of APC?
Good. Well, I did an extensive consultation. I went around. In fact, my consultation went even beyond Nigeria. I did international consultation. I did national. I did local. I met high-profile politicians. I met former head of states. I met Obasanjo. I met Goodluck Jonathan. I met James Ibori. I met political leaders, you know, at the national level. I met then at the states, at my state Delta.
Yeah.
I met officials of the PDP. I met people from the APC. I met people from the Labour Party. I met people from the YDP. I think I met about 4 or 5 political parties. But at the end, PDP was a no-go area for me. From the consultation, they had already agreed that there will be no primaries. The current governor will be returned unopposed in 2019 to contest the elections, and that they do zoning and rotational system. Ibori clearly told me that I should wait till 2031, because after Okowa must have completed his second term, the governorship will be zoned to Delta Senatorial Central, and meaning the Robo people will have their turn, and then they're expected to complete 8 years. So PDP was shut down. And then I met with Labour Party, and these were parties. The other political parties did not really have structures in all of the local government areas. So meaning if you choose to run under the platform, you have to come with your finances to be able to build the structure. And we don't have that. I mean, we don't have that financial capacity to start building the structure of a party, because I wouldn't want to monopolize a political party. So ordinarily, political parties are supposed to be a platform under which you should exercise your right to run for any particular office of your choice. So it became very clear that APC was the only formidable opposition party that met all the requirements that I needed in the kind of political party that I think fit in my ideas, my policies, and my approach. And so the moment I've settled for APC, I went back again to the national body, and then I spoke to a few people. I told them what my vision is and what was driving me, what my passion was for the people, and they all saw it as a good thing. And then we became one family, and from that moment, I've clearly identified with the APC. But, you know, at my state, PDP is a dominant political party, and a few people tell me, you know, we want to vote for you, we want to support you, but we don't want APC. But my message to them is clear. 2019 should not be about political party. 2019 should be about the candidate that is running. I mean, we shouldn't ride on the back of political party to bring tyrants into governance, to bring corrupt people into governance, to bring people who are not having the capacity to lead us into governance just because we believe that we are for PDP. And that is also to add to it, if it is the Western democracy where political parties are built on the basis of, you know, orientation, we can agree. So if you're a core Republican, there are certain values you can never be able to identify yourself with because you are a conservative, then you can stay with your political party and support any candidate. But in Nigeria, it's not like that, you know. So there is no orientation or ideology that should deter me from not supporting somebody on the APC ticket because he's coming from the opposition party. So I think that has to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very great response from you, and I must commend you
Thank you
because
very
of your
much.
consistency.
Thank you very much.
Because a few days ago, Sunday to be precise, I was in a function where you were too, and I was just few meters away from where you were standing, and a particular lady did mention the issue of APC, PDP, and other parties. She particularly said she would have loved to support you, but not APC. And the same response you just gave right now, it was the same response you gave her. So when I asked you this question, I was trying to see your consistency. So the honesty thing, it's actually a great thing. So I see that you mean business and you want to do this. I've also seen some of your pictures all over with the former presidents of the country, Chief Obasanjo, Goodluck Jonathan, recently with Oshiomhole, Ibori, and a whole lot of them. And one of the major problems in Africa, to be honest, is that when productive leaders come on board, some people, because of that association, sometimes that association is not well used. That association is allowed to influence one to do something out of what one plans for the society. Now, this we have met our different political parties, political ideas, leadership ideas. How do you want to keep the relationship, maintain the party's idea and your own idea from where you're coming from to bring about that needed progress, difference, positive change in your states?
Well, as a leader, you are meant to harmonize, and in any democracy, there is always a divide. So by the time you are elected, you are not elected to govern your party people alone. You are elected to also govern your opposition party. So as a leader, you should be able to have that discipline of how to manage people, how to take them along. And I have not seen anybody in this world who is against good governance. So the thing is, what is lacking in our leadership today is that people who are not prepared for leadership have been entrusted on us to lead us. So when they get to the office, they see the magnitude of the challenge they need to face. They have no clue as to how to go about it. So they start to consult people who will now bring in their personal interests. I am very prepared for this office. I have my policy in place. I know how I want to go about it. I have met all of these leaders. I know how they think. I know how they've responded to me. And one thing I can tell you today is that in as much as our people will say that our leaders are too old and they don't want to go, it's not true. It's just that our leaders are looking for the right persons to hand over office to, and be rest assured that that person will be able to manage. And this is what I am bringing in. And I will be able to manage them in a way that if you abstain from corrupt activities, and then you are able to talk to people who are corrupt to say it is time for us to put our personal interest aside and focus on how we can push our people forward and bring our states to global economic map, they will be willing to work with you. And on top of that, God will stand and bless the effort of your hand, knowing fully well that you operate with transparency and open-mindedness in a way that you're no longer thinking of yourself, but thinking about the people who have been deprived of certain basic things of their life, and then you are there to become the conduit to which they can get it. You will definitely succeed. And that is my motto, and that is why I believe that we will all fix that together from 2019. We
have 3 minutes to round up this program. There's one important thing somebody asked me. That was on Sunday at the function. I never had the opportunity to discuss that with you, but it's important now I ask you. I understand where you come from in Delta State. The Isoko has never had a shot at the governorship, and you are the first person.
Yes.
And you are the youngest at the moment contesting for that position.
That's correct.
Is that a fact?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you are giving your people a voice.
Yeah.
At the Isoko Kingdom, the Niger Delta, because I know you don't just represent the Isoko people alone, based on your antecedents, your historical performances that we can see there. You fight for the minority group. So it's beyond the Niger Delta.
Yeah.
It's actually very interesting having you on this program.
Thank you very
We
much.
can go on and on and on
Yeah,
without
thank
stopping
you.
because you have many things, but at this moment we have to stop. And I hope the next time we invite you, you come around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
God bless
much,
you.
comrade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
viewers, thank you very much for being with us on this show. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Ayola TV, and also leave your comments and follow us on all our social media handles. I am your host. I am simply referred to as David. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.